This is Also Ice, the Young Elder, and we fought again. This is Majesties of America, Part 2. I want to say Islam to the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, Islam. I want to say Islam to one of my teachers, who I call one of the four horsemen, Taj Tariq Bey. Islam, Islam. Listen up. These are fundamental things you must know in this time. Let's take them back to January 1st, 1492, when they tricked the Moors. April Fool's Day, because they didn't want us to leave, because we would have alarmed our brothers in the West Hemisphere of the extreme West. We would have alarmed our brothers in the extreme West what was taking place. The Spanish Inquisition, it was a covert operation against the Moors. Overstand that. Are we clear on that? Okay? So they didn't want us to leave, right? They didn't want us to leave. People say, why the Moors helped them out, right? We're gonna get into that. They didn't want us to leave and go back alarm our brothers in the West what was taking place, the extermination of our people. So what they did is they captured some of the Moors who were navigators and held their family prisoners, right? Because after they got in 1492, when they took over Granada, they got the seal to be able to sail through the Western Hemisphere on maritime. Because go back and get part 1, we explained that to you. Without having the right paperwork on your ship, you are not able to sail, or you will get jacked by pirates, right? Where they get the word jack from, because Jack, as in Jack Sparrow, right? The real Jack was a Moor, and they jacked people who didn't have the right paperwork, right? Who didn't have the seal of the Moorish Empire, right? Saying that they were allowed to sail, right? So what they did is, in 1492 in January, they captured some of the Moors who were navigators and their families, and held their families hostage, and told them they wanted them to help them sail to the West, right? As if you don't help them, we'll kill your family. And if you tell the Moors when you get over there that what's going on, we're gonna kill your family. So the Moors, they helped them sail over to America, to Mexum, right? To the Caribbeans. These Moors' families were held captive and will be murdered and killed if they didn't comply to these beings who were trying to manipulate and trick their way to owning the whole planet, right? So as we speed up, this is going on, the tricking, right? The tricks in the trade. As we speed up in time, 300 years to a man named John Henson, who was the first Moor president, right, of the Republic in 1781 through 1782, who was a Freemason way before Prince of Hall was established September of 1784. John Hanson died in 1783. Now, you can try to say, right, that, Prince of Hall set up an African lodge in 1775, but you telling me that lodge had enough pull to get a nigga to be president? That's just one thing. 2, now that just point us in a direction. If Prince Hall called it an African lodge, why the hell they moved it to Philadelphia and called it a Prince of Hall lodge? That's the game, man. I ain't finna get into the Wikipedia lies, but as we move on. So what lodge was John Hanson a member of? If there were no so-called black Masons before Prince of Hall, what lodge was John Hanson a member of? See, they covering up something here. He was a member of the Grand Moorish Lodge of Philadelphia. They know, and they are trying to cover this up. They are spending a concentrated effort trying to cover this up. You can't be a president without being a Mason, because you must understand how real government is ran and what real government is. And John Hanson, who was the 8th president of the Republic, this is a man in 1781 and 82 had enough power and enough wealth to send 800 pounds of sterling silver to George Washington, the homophiliac who was scared of women and had no kids, who wore high-heeled wooden shoes, a skirt and wig. Also, he was a British general, which strikes me very strange that he was in control of any military operation. And the Moor president, John Hanson, sent this silver to Sweet George so that his troops can buy shoes, right? So they're playing a sick and twisted game here, trying to cover up the historical fact that this is our land and our inheritance. And you know what they say, a picture says 1,000 words. And as I look at the picture of John Hanson, the look on his face, he's saying that they are funking us over. And to add to complete insult, they assassinate him by poisoning his pipe tobacco in 1783 because they didn't want him to put out any information that will stop their planning and stealing our inheritance. And after the man dies, several years later, they put a white image up of him, of a being shooting the hitting hand, which is a Masonic symbol, meaning he's hiding something. And what is he hiding? That he's really a black man, a Moor man. And they're trying to cover up this. And as you observe this next photo of Sweet George, what you should be saying in the time frame we're in is, who's that nigga on that nag, boss? And the answer to that question is, oh, that there's Prince Wilbur Bey. He's not to be treated like the rest of the niggers. He's a Moor. The being who's sitting on the horse, which they call nag, with the Moorish headdress, right, is Prince Ripple Bay. And they try to paint him out as a slave, but he never was a slave. He was a free man Moor. The question you should be asking is, why is he in a photo on a horse with George Washington? Because they're covering up something here. And the same being is they're witnessing as they take down the Moorish flag and set up the United States of America, which is a ship parked over our land, a corporation, a business, an organization, right? Not the land. Keep that in mind, Moors. And they don't teach you about the real Prince Hall, whose name was Benjamin Baraka Bay, who took a pocket watch off a rich chump, bust it down, like you boys say, and reassembled it and created his own big clock. The same being who laid out the layout for the Washington, D.C., who was an astronomer and wrote the almanac. Now, how is this being knowing all this information, right? And this is Masonic information. When you talk about the almanac and the study of the stars, how did this being possess this amount of information without being part of a large prior to? See what I'm saying? It's a game. You people better wake up. It's a big game, brother, sister. Then we fast forward to 1797 when Thomas the Rapist Jefferson became president, who have already had 600 Moors in captivity under Negro black colored slaves, who passed laws to stop the importing or outporting of slaves because he said that he was already making enough money off his slaves having babies, and by them bringing new slaves in who possibly could still know their inheritance or their bloodline or their pedigree, right? That they would stir up the Moors who they had brainwashed of their inheritance. Or when beings are exported out to other countries, they could inform beings on that side of the globe of what's taking place in the Western Hemisphere. And this is part of the reason why they killed Malcolm X, because Malcolm X is going to take racism in the form of him having a nationality. He was going to take racism and present it to the international court, right? And present us as a group of people, a group of human beings, because he had attained the knowledge, because he knew the knowledge. That's why he said his name was Malcolm Shabazz El or whatever, right? Because he knew, and Elijah Muhammad knew this information, right? Elijah Muhammad knew that it wasn't time yet. He knew that he had to raise his people in baby stages. Elijah Muhammad said to get off from under their name. God people don't have names like pig, dog, cat, and named after things, tree. God people don't have names of this type, right? So Elijah Muhammad knew what time it was. Martin Luther King found out some of this information, and he had won a Nobel Peace Prize in another country, and they say, oh, we gotta kill him. Because the Jesuits, right, are who responsible. The real 12 monkeys, those who are gonna release the virus, right? So the Jesuits, right, we'll get on them later. But what we're talking about now, okay, where were we? Thomas Jefferson. So Thomas Jefferson stopping the importing of slaves and the outporting of slaves was not to help us, it was to take us down even more. Thomas Jefferson worked his slaves more than anybody. He worked their fingers to the bones and raped his slaves and had children with them, right? And keep in mind, we were not slaves, we were kidnapped. Keep that in mind when we present this to international court. Slaves are Slavs. So them trying to paint Thomas Jefferson as a great guy because he stopped the import of slaves and export is a bunch of crap and a big game, right? He was a racist, a liar, and a killer from the jump and didn't give a damn about the Moors. Then we fast forward to 1861 to a being by the name of Abraham Lincoln. At this time, United States Corporation was setting up at the same time. Abraham Lincoln bankrupted the United States Corporation, and because of this, he was shot in the back of the head and left for dead, orchestrated by none other than the Lords of London, who are private shareholders in the United States Corporation, which is a business, because he also offered up 40 acres and a mule, which they didn't have that many mules, and they damn sure didn't have that much land to give away because it's only 196 million acres on the planet, and it was 22 million so-called black people who were really of Moorish descent, right, awaiting their 40 acres and a mule. The Jesuits wasn't having it. They bumped Lincoln off, right, and because United States Corporation was filed as a company in London. Once Lincoln bankrupted them, they refiled the company again in 1871 in Puerto Rico and hired their boy, who was a mercenary by the name of General Ulysses Grant, who they made president, who was a Knights of Templar and a Grand Wizard in the Ku Klux Klan. And you already know what the Ku Klux Klan is all about. The beings who are trying to block the three pyramids, who were hired in 1865 by the Lords of London as mercenaries to suppress and rob the original beings of the land of the West, being branded now as Black, Negro, and Colored, Latino, Puerto Rican, right? Who head officials were members of Knights of Templar. And understand what a president is. The president is not the owner. He's not the CEO. Are we clear? General Ulysses Grant, a hired gunman, because that's what he was, a hired gunman who put the finishing touches on their business, right, by passing the Unappropriation Act in 1871, stating that tribes would no longer be seen as independent, but as wards of the state. See, now, this is where the game begins. Well, now you are wards of the state, and you must understand what a ward is. He also passed a law called the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, right? For all you naysayers that say, oh, he wasn't the member of the Ku Klux Klan. The man passed the act called the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. This act allowed the president to send troops and enforce the 14th Amendment, to make you, to put you under the 14th Amendment, to force you to denounce your ancestors, to force you to denounce your mothers and your fathers who were Moors. You see what the game begins? This is a business, an operation, all brought to you by the Lords of London, co-signed by the Pope and the Queen. Man, you understand what's going down here? And the beings known as the KKK hate Negroes, Jews, and Spics, all of which are really of Moorish descent. And they know this. The beings known as the KKK are really secondary fieldmen, hired gunmen, commercial mercenaries who were hired by the Lords of London to suppress and rob the original seed of the land Turtle Island, right? Known as North America, known by the secret societies and Freemasons as the North Gate. That in mind, right? And these Ku Klux Klans, right, who were hired gunmen, were given uniforms by the Lords of London to give them an air of legitimacy, right? So now you know, Brother Beans, who you call the police, here to bring adversity on the poor and the least of us. Now you know why they do people who call themselves black, Negro, and color the way they do, because their foundation is the Klan. So you see what I'm saying? This is the type of game that is being perpetuated on the so-called black, Negro, color, African American being. So as they set up the corporation and brand you as Negro, black, colored, Puerto Rican, Indian, African American, and get you to agree to it, right? Once they get you to agree to it, then you become non-human, non-descendable. Y'all know that it's an international courts, right? Understand how this works. In order to be recognized on an international level, you must have a nationality. This is why the Korean, the Chinese, the fake Arab who come over here look at you and treat you the way they do, because they know that you don't know your true history, your true inheritance, who you really are. They're on your land selling you stuff for triple the price, right? And talking bad about you, right? Calling you Aswad, which means black, right? This is a game that is being perpetuated non-stop, day and night. And they hire reverends, people who call themselves reverends and bishops, right? And black leaders to perpetuate the word black to make you agree to it, right? See, I know y'all saying, damn, young elder, you got a tape called Clowns Prevent the Rise of the Black Messiah. This tape is done in a way to attract a certain being so I can get them on the truth. And in the streets, like I say, we gotta be smart with this thing. In the streets, we black. This is how we unite, right? In the streets, we black. But on records, in international court, we Moors that were kidnapped, murdered, and lynched. We were not slaves. Slaves are from Russia. This is how we get paid, man. You understand what I'm saying? So in the streets, amongst one another in privacy, we can be black as far as the dominancy, the nobleness, or as far as the soul power, if you want to refer to that as such. But on international courts and documents, right, that it can be legitimately, that are legitimate in law, and how we get paid, right? We are Moors, man. They have a parade every year in January in Spain and in the United States to mark you, to mark the fall of you. Europeans paint their face black and wear your fez to make fun of you. Man, understand what the game is all about. They do plays and reenactments to show how you feel and how you once ruled and how you were still asleep. They put out movies like Black Knight, what they call Martin Lawrence all through the movie Moore. Don't believe me, go check out the movie Black Knights with Martin Lawrence and watch closely, as they call him a Moore all through the damn movie. Listen up, this is how we get paid. Long as we say we black, Negro, or color, we ain't gonna never get paid. Because black, Negro, and color is not a people on international court document. You understand what I'm saying? But once we say we Moors and we were kidnapped, see, Moor is on international document of who we are, right? And once we say we were kidnapped, murdered, and lynched, now this is a people who are indigenous that were tortured. Because you gotta understand, the Jews are getting paid right now. Every year, they get billions of dollars for their national defense system, right? Based off what happened to them during the Adolf Hitler joint, right? Then the Japanese get paid a certain amount of money every year because of the 2 bombs that the United States corporation dropped on them, right? See what I'm saying? Then You got other people like the Iraqis who the United States corporation dropped bombs on. They get the reparations for what happened to them. Why are we not getting, according to them, they say that the blacks was enslaved for 400 years over here. Now, you know how much money they were, for how much reparation will we get for 400 years? But you never gonna be able to claim that until you are a people, a nationality. You would never be able to claim no damn reparations under the black, under Negro, under color. You understand that, man? That's just the bottom line. And people can take it how they want. They can get all emotional. The white man ain't gonna do. The white man, they gonna do what he gonna do. Say I get all emotional, but when you get emotional, scholars know. Fast forward to 1913, where the prophet Noble Jew Ali, Islam prophet, I got this, set up the Canaanite temple, which later became known as the Moorish Science Temple, as a direct rebuttal against this corporation who were trying to label the original indigenous people of the land and brand them and human traffic them by way of T-bomb. This what Noble Jew Ali was out to shut down, brothers and sisters. This what Abraham Lincoln tried to shut down, and they gassed it, right, to the dome. And they got at Noble Jew Ali, right, because Noble Jew Ali in 1928. But before we go there, let's talk about Woodrow Wilson thinking in America during the secret treaty of Verona on Jekyll Island, where he made an attempt, right? That's what he did, made an attempt to sell the last increments of the land which they had conquered, because they had finally put all of the original Moors asleep, having them agreeing to the brand and color, and now they got a business to sell humans, because now they can sell you because you're not really human, you are black. Man, this shit is deep. You Moors better put on your fez and let's do this, man. And when you put on that fez, make sure you got something up there to dance with. See what I'm saying? If we don't wake up Moors, we go down with them. Because if you say you black, you are the collateral. Because when you do a contract, right, and you put up collateral, if the contract is not upheld, you forfeit the collateral. So when they go down, you go down with them. If you don't wake up, Moors, let's do this. Put on your fez, let's rock and roll. We about to win this war. Why? Because we can dance and they can't.